By the turn of the 23rd century, 95% of the world lived on or below the poverty line. As a result of this, many take dangerous jobs in the interplanetary mining, military, and space exploration sectors. Off-Earth transit is achieved via slipstreaming, the process of turning matter into a data signal and transmitting it to a fixed coordinate anywhere in the known universe. Voluntary trained personnel are fitted with an apex device which is fused into their central nervous system to utilize this slipstream. Whit Carmichael, a new recruit, is preparing to start his new role at the West Coast Search and Rescue Team. Before he departs, he and his pregnant wife, Lisa, share a heartfelt moment, and Lisa gives him a picture of them, along with a loving note as a lucky charm before kissing him goodbye. Later, at the West Coast Slipstream Division, the team gives Whit a warm welcome. The captain directs most of the team to head out. Then, right in front of Whit, begins questioning Dave about a jump he made after noticing something odd in the logs that could suggest a problematic jump. Dave dismisses it as a minor error. Suddenly, an announcement is made saying squads 14 to 28 must prepare for a jump. The captain activates a video feed of the jump and sees that the teams are heading into a mining site blind. After just a few seconds, only a few team members return, and to everyone's horror, they are screaming in agony, their faces covered in blood. An alarm is raised indicating a quarantine breach. As doctors attempt to assist the bleeding rescuers, one of them suddenly begins shooting everyone. The captain, Dave, and Whit try to escape, but the door is locked due to protocol. They watch helplessly as one by one, every returning team member becomes violent and attacks each other, with bullets piercing the walls, narrowly missing them. To protect themselves, they are left with no choice but to jump, even though the jump leads to a location called Infini, which is off the grid. Dave is reluctant to go since it's where the crazed miners originated from, but the lockdown protocol fills the room with gas, forcing them to jump or die. For some reason, the captain's apex cannot decode the code, so only Whit and Dave manage to jump, leaving the captain behind to perish. Moments later, East Coast Central Command is thrown into turmoil with reports about what's happening in Infini. The chief assembles a search and rescue team and briefs them on the situation. Infini is the most remote outpost in the galaxy and is notorious for the deadliest space disaster in history, where 1,600 workers were killed by a volatile mineral unique to the planet. As a result, Infini was permanently shut down, and a team was sent to investigate. However, an accident killed all the team members except one, Montoli, who painfully removed his apex to prevent headquarters from forcing him back. Montoli now plans to send a massive shipment of the dangerous mineral to Earth, and the mission is to stop him. At this point, the team learns of the tragic events at the West Coast Division. Apparently, all the squads sent to extract Montoli are dead, with the exception of Whit, who has been trapped in Infini for a week due to time dilation in space. They also suspect an airborne threat at the station. The team jumps to Infini and immediately finds the station in ruins and frozen. They assign tasks. Boxon and Jacklar will search for Whit. Menzies, Greenwich, and Kent will look for the payload, and Mannings, Huntington, and Captain Johansson will locate the generator. As the team explores, they discover numerous bodies scattered throughout the station. Half of the victims died from the freezing temperatures, but the cause of death for the others remains unclear. Eventually, Menzies' group locates the payload and begins working on the control panel, speculating about the power source. Meanwhile, Johansson's group discovers a dead man with strange lumps protruding from his neck, which they cannot identify. They eventually find the generator, and while Huntington begins repairs, Mannings checks the surroundings. He is horrified to find abandoned experiments involving human skin and body parts. At that moment, the generator powers up and the system reboots, only to display a dark screen asking, "Who are you? And what are you doing here?" Johansson, suspecting this might be some kind of automated system, explains that they're there to rescue Whit, which triggers the fans to blow steam into the rooms and locks down the station. Mannings becomes trapped inside the room with the experiments, forced to watch as the station begins to unfreeze and blood starts dripping from the ceiling. Eventually, Boxon's team discovers a door that opens by itself, revealing Whit emerging from his hiding place. Whit deactivates the lockdown protocol, and the team regroups with him. He explains that he had to be sure this team wasn't as insane as the others, and that the station has become a slaughterhouse. The cause of all the deaths is an infection transmitted through blood, which drives its victims into a berserk rage, explaining how the miners killed each other. Whit had tried to return through Slipstream but failed, opting to stay hidden in the ducts where he sabotaged the external vents, killing everyone else for his own protection. Huntington asks how Whit is keeping the station running, and Whit reveals it operates on binary codes, which he understands. This prompts the team to wonder if Whit can deactivate the payload, which angers him as he realizes the team's true mission is to retrieve the minerals, not to rescue him. Jacklar intervenes, reassuring Whit that they'll take him home after they complete their task. Whit agrees to help and begins working on the computer, quickly locating the payload. To disable it, someone needs to go to the furnace room to trigger the override. Menzies volunteers, and Johansson sends Jacklar and Greenwich with him. Whit then directs the team to look out the window, revealing dozens of windmills powering the station. Moments later, the trio reaches the furnace room and activates the override for Whit, all while discussing their families waiting for them back home. Whit proceeds to shut down the payload, but as the override is initiated, an alarm sounds, and Whit instructs Menzies and Greenwich to turn off the valves. The gauges fail to function, and the computer warns of an impending meltdown, but with Whit's guidance, they manage to safely shut everything down. As the team prepares to regroup, Montoli appears and attacks Johansson with an axe. The team pushes him off, and Mannings quickly neutralizes Montoli with a single shot. The team rushes to find medical supplies for Johansson. Huntington and Whit hesitate to help Johansson, fearing the infection, but Mannings orders Huntington to assist. Just then, Montoli reveals he is still alive and attacks Mannings. After a brief struggle, Mannings manages to kill Montoli, causing his infected blood to splatter everywhere. The infection spreads quickly, causing everyone to scream in agony as they lose control. Whit focuses and resists the infection long enough to warn Menzies to hide. He then escapes and jumps across a gap in the station but slips and falls through several floors. For a brief moment, Whit sees Lisa at home, worried about him, but he then wakes up to find he has survived the fall, thanks to the infection. Whit stumbles upon a laboratory and searches for medicine to treat his infection, but finds nothing. As he takes a moment to center himself, fighting off violent impulses, he discovers research revealing the dangerous mineral is actually a frozen organic parasite called primordial ooze. Its predatory instincts are the cause of infected people's insanity. Only those with advanced emotional stability can resist the infection. For everyone else, it spreads rapidly. The ooze seeks to become the dominant organism, capable of replicating any organic matter it infects, including entire human beings. The research also reveals Montoli as the mastermind behind it all. Whit hears a strange noise and investigates, only to be attacked by Menzies, who had been hiding in a closet. After a struggle, Menzies releases Whit when he swears he's not infected. They discuss the research, and Menzies concludes the entire planet is a living entity, only thawed though. There's no cure for the infection, and their only hope is to return home. As they talk, Whit struggles against the infection, his body resisting the urge to succumb to it. Menzies grows suspicious, but Whit reassures him, claiming his wound is from a fall. The two agree to find Huntington, but their plans are interrupted when Mannings suddenly bursts in, attacking Menzies. Whit points his gun at Mannings to stop him, but Mannings threatens to shoot Menzies if Whit doesn't lower his weapon. Mannings rants about being sent to save Whit and says it can see him. After more tirades, Mannings prepares to kill Menzies, but the two try to remind him of their friendship and their families back home. Mannings decides to shoot himself dead, and his blood splashes onto Menzies' face, triggering the infection. Whit is forced to shoot Menzies before he becomes dangerous. Whit begins hallucinating and nearly loses control, but manages to focus and calm himself. Eventually, he finds Huntington recording a message for his family, still resisting the infection. When Whit demands to be taken home, Huntington ignores him until he finishes the recording. He then reveals he's already contacted headquarters, but they have to wait 8 hours. Whit grows concerned. As time passes, both Whit and Huntington start losing control. They fluctuate between emotions, laughing maniacally, screaming, and even threatening each other. Whit grows tired of waiting and heads to the medical bay alone. Jacklar appears, his arm mutated, and tries to kiss her, promising to protect her. But Greenwich is terrified, and when Jacklar asks about their baby, she admits to having an abortion to prevent passing on the infection. Enraged, Jacklar goes berserk and attacks her, but Greenwich fights back. Meanwhile, Whit struggles to open a door but is helped by Huntington. Together, they reach the medbay and discover the ooze communicates through their brains. Jacklar is dead, but Greenwich is still alive. Whit asks her how to fight the infection, but she believes the ooze is too intelligent and death is their only escape. She says goodbye to her mother before dying. In despair, Whit begins to lose control again, and his eyes turn completely red. Huntington points his gun at him, but Whit fights back and the two engage in a violent struggle. Whit eventually overpowers Huntington and strangles him with a hose, killing him. This leaves Whit the last surviving human on the station. He records a message to the ooze, criticizing it for harnessing only the violent instincts of humanity instead of working with humans. As Whit speaks, he begins hallucinating again, seeing visions of the team and Lisa. Holding on to the picture of him and Lisa, Whit tells it that it failed and unalives himself. As the recording plays on a loop over the loudspeakers, the ooze moves onto the bodies and they awaken unharmed and no longer crazed, but clearly disturbed by what has happened. Whit checks the lab and confirms all the mineral samples are gone. The team agrees to teleport back and keep their story simple. The mission is completed, the payload destroyed, and Whit rescued. As they begin to teleport, Whit sees several humanoid forms made of ooze, silently watching them go. One of them is revealed to be holding the picture. Returning to Earth, the team is scanned and asked if they are free from biological contaminants. They answer in the affirmative, and the scan clears them all. Only 52 seconds have passed here. Whit returns home to his wife, who had been told he was not coming back, and they embrace.